Parents Airmail. A cousin in Texas recently sent me stacks of letters that my late mother saved. After Mom died in 1984, her sister Charlotte and other family members preserved the letters, and now they've come to me. They are from 1959 and 1960, when my parents had separated. My father was in France, where my parents had moved after their 1955 wedding. He was working as a civilian mechanic on an Air Force base. My mother returned stateside with my baby brother and me to Tyler, Texas, where Aunt Charlotte lived. The letters come from the era of airmail. You may recall the global glamour of airmail with all those stamps and official notices. Most were from my father writing in longhand on his stationery. My mother typed her letters on carbon paper so she would have a copy for herself. I did the same thing. These letters are a glimpse into what parents in conflicts say to each other. In my father's letters, I can hear the wheedling, browbeating tone that sounded so familiar from my visits to him as a teen when he lived in Manhattan. He alternated between trying to cadge money from Mom for his dubious car-related projects in France and berating my mother for her personality, her post-childbirth appearance, and her baffling need to work. He even told her to hawk her wedding ring to raise cash and to go to charm school. On December 4th, 1959, he wrote, "Since you are still sulking in your shell, I'll say a few things. As you can see, I am in no position to send you money. If you have any confidence in me, then do what you once proposed, sell everything and come back, or bring the stocks and some money, or get a loan on the stocks." On January 12, 1960, he wrote, "I only remember before our marriage and the other girl I knew and loved, not the middle-aged woman I lived with. So I wipe away the 5 years because I hardly remember anything happy or pleasant, and unhappiness fades away. Now there's only the boys to show for it, and they will soon lose their meaning to me because I can't see them grow or help raise them. They're just a couple of boys who have my name." And he was true to his word. My brother and I saw him one weekend in 10 years. In March, he wrote, "There was a lot you gave to your father, who had died in October 1959. Where is the money from the estate? Anyway, I'm super broke." Well, my mother's letters start with a hopeful, even loving tone, but she ultimately voices a steely determination to move on as a divorced working mom in her hometown of Mission, Texas, on the border with Mexico. On November 28, 1960, she wrote, "If all your troubles were just plain hard luck, I could be sorry for you. But I think you brought so much of this on yourself. The day I married you, you didn't have a dime, and now you're broke again, but badly in debt. This time, you work it out alone. I'm going on with the divorce. This life is going to get me if I don't. You know, a person can stand only so much." Reading that, I realized Mom could have been writing songs for Patsy Cline and Tammy Wynette. She had the gift of hard-edged poetry. Those letters are grueling to read, but I also have scores of letters from my mother when she wrote to me when I was in college and starting my career as a journalist in New York. They're much more enjoyable to read. She remained a salty, engaged mother, sister, and friend until her death at 63. And my father, well, he never changed his tone, only his targets. When I was a teenager, he said I walked like a girl. In my 30s, he told my fiance, "He's hiding money from you." In my 40s, he told me to lose weight. In my 50s, he hung up the phone when I told him my brother and I wouldn't bail him out of problems with the IRS. He lived into his 90s, long enough to become a great-grandfather. He showed as little interest in that role as he did in being a father and a grandfather. And why should he be interested? We were just boys who had his name. I know that because he put it in writing. He outlived my mother by 34 years. In 2018, I spoke at his memorial service at the VA cemetery in Rockland County. He left no personal effects for me, no summary of a relentlessly self-involved life, an enigma to the end. I recently spoke to his widow and asked her for Social Security number, death certificate, part of genealogy research. She said she didn't have them. But now I have the airmail collection, which tells me a lot more than I ever expected to learn. Thank you.
You guys can do better than that. Come on, let's give it up for Ben. It takes a lot of courage to get up here in an open mic. Like, we've been practicing our stories for weeks, right? But to come in and do that, it takes a lot of courage, especially when it's something so raw. So thank you so much for sharing that with us, man. We really appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So,